Welcome to Build with Rob. I am Rob Dyrdek, CEO and founder of the Dyrdek Machine. We are a company that creates companies. Okay, we systematically fuse art, science, and magic to manufacture amazing. We use a little thing called the machine method. And guess what? I systematically fuse art, science, and magic to manufacture an amazing life using a little thing I call the machine mindset. And that's what this show is all about. You know, it's all about business strategy and all about life strategy. And for me, I'm all about systems and everything. You know, I think your life is this beautiful system of all these integrated systems. And when you eventually learn to design, automate, and optimize and integrate all these systems together, you are guaranteed to live an extraordinary life, no doubt, because it's on you to create it. And why I even talk about automation and everything is because it leads to make it easier. You naturally drive everything to automation in your life. And when you focus on getting it to automation and then getting it to optimization, like that's where the greatness occurs. That's when you can really do special things, when you're just taking something automated and making it better and better. And look, if you've been listening to me on my podcast roadshow in 2021, you would be hearing a lot about me talking about my qualitative and quantitative data that I track about myself. And really, I've talked about it a little bit on this show, but I wanna simplify it a little bit for some of you guys that listen and want to attempt to do it yourself and give it to you a little bit more philosophically on sort of what qualitative data is to me and how, if you want to attempt to use it, I think it can really, really change your life and give you clarity on a lot of things that are really hard to understand. But for most people, when they hear me talking about, every day I track, how I feel about my life, work, and health, the quality of my sleep, how motivated I was. I asked my wife about the relationship, and then I track my core 6. Did I get up at 5? Did I brain train? Did I meditate? Did I get in the gym? Did I have a clean diet? Did I not drink? It's overwhelming and it's quite extensive. You know what I mean? But I'm up here, in that elevated mastery level of this type of work, and what I'd like to bring it all the way down is just this idea of building qualitative self-awareness, right? And qualitative self-awareness to me is just learning to just ask yourself how you feel about your life. It's that simple, right? If you just each day, take time to ask yourself now, how do I feel about my life as it sits today, 0 to 10, right? And how you would look at that is in this day today, if you're a 5, you're neutral. You're not entirely hopeful. You're not negative. You're just everything's decent. I'm not bummed. I'm not super hopeful or hyped. I'm just living, right? And if you're a 6 and above, man, the world's half full. You're hopeful. Doesn't matter what happens. You can kind of see, your life evolving, the mission you're on, the things you're doing, your job, your girlfriend, your relationships, your boyfriend, whatever it may be. Everything is hopeful and positive. And then below a 5, boy, it's half empty. Oh, it's half empty. And on half empty, man, you pick apart every single thing that there is. And it's funny because when you get to half empty, it's this odd, it's very binary, right? You're really either half full or half empty. And when you're half empty, you're mad at yourself for buying a couch. Do you know what I'm saying? You're mad at yourself for even doing something you did 2 years earlier. When you dip below into half empty, it is this unusual place where you just it's almost like compounded negativity. And it's not a matter of being, an optimist and having gratitude and all of these different sort of things of like where people would be like, oh, you can't think like that. You know what I mean? You got to think positive. I'm the most positive human being alive. I'm the most positive human being alive. But there was a point, like even through all that positivity, boy, you dip down into half empty. And boy, in everything. And it's crazy how it compounds and how it literally splinters out into all of these things that you wish you would have never done. And for the most part, like it seems so complex. Like, why am I so worried about my couch? You know what I mean? Like, why did I should have never got that new Honda Civic. Now I'm going back to like the 90s. But what I realized when I just started doing that, though, is that there was sort of one sort of major thing, like one or two major things that were part of triggering me, bringing me down, right? And the same way that the same sort of things were always like bringing me up and keeping me high and keeping me excited, right? And as I began to do it now, day in and day out, like when I would get to another, I'd be neutral, and then I'd get to another negative day, it would be like, wow, it's the same thing again, right? And so what does that do? That now, begins to build a case for something quantifiable for you to change. That's why I always say like, qualitative data for quantifiable change, right? It's like qualitative is how you feel. Quantifiable is something you can actually take action on and do, right? Qualitative, all like, it's only you, and it's just like you got to trust yourself that you're making a good assessment because it's basically just how you feel. And then quantitative is something you can make an actual change on, and as you begin to do that, the most interesting aspect of it, and I even when I share this all the time, I'm usually not like, it's usually in the context of all of these different things that I'm doing, and I try to explain it from time to time for people to kind of get into it, even though I know it's like a little, it's progressive, I'd say, a progressive mental health tool. And for me, it's like you end up seeing a handful of things that keep showing up that pull you down. It's not, and life seems so incredibly complex. You feel when you're half empty, you feel as if like all of these things have conspired against you and brought you here. And it's why you can look deep into decisions you made years before and bad like decisions you made that are totally irrelevant to your current state, but you're judging yourself for that. Like all of this feeling is so hard to make any sense of on really what it is, what it triggered it exactly. But when you ask yourself, well, it's like, well, this just happened. That's what drove me here. And then when you see that happen 2 or 3 more times, it's like, wow, okay. Here I am again. And I thought it was all these other things, but it's just this one person. It's this one feeling of debt. It's this one aspect of the job that I'm doing. It's this aspect of how I'm taking care of myself, right? Like whatever it may be, what will happen is you will eventually begin to see things that you can actually take action on and change. And so, the craziest thing is I think, and I don't have any science behind this, and, I don't have a good data pool as it relates to anyone that I know that does this at scale. I don't have many people around me that practice this. Occasionally people will tell me they practice it. I can't get my wife to commit to it. You know what I mean? She's not trying to live with that machine mindset. But I know that it's not it's not like 100 things you need to change to get to a much higher quality of half full life. I think it's for most people, like 4 to 7 things. It's not that many. And once you clear all those out, now you're in this sort of perpetual state of being neutral and half full. And then now it's circumstantial stuff that hits you, that pulls you down, or decisions that you've made that were risky that now have come back to hit you and now have pulled you down. But you become so much more clear on what is actually affecting you emotionally and how you actually feel, because you, again, I talk a lot about energy and energy awareness and optimizing for energy and defending energy, and all that's based off of how you feel. And how you feel is super elusive. And it's why using something as simple as just asking yourself every day how you feel about your life, 0 to 10, will begin to give you feedback over time that allows you to make the changes you need to make your life better, to make you feel better, about your life. And then I can tell you on the other side of it, boy, man, it's you then you do this for years and then you become so highly optimized. Then you begin to look at, why am I so disciplined of getting up at 5 every day, brain training, meditating, getting in the gym, eating clean and not drinking? Because I see it affect the qualitative numbers on the quality of my life. And then it basically was the tool that gave me the motivation and the discipline to do those 6 things for my health, because I know from the numbers that it affected my motivation, my sleep, how I felt about my life, my work, and my health. And ultimately was the tool that allowed me to live this very high quality existence that I live today. So hope that makes sense to you in a more simple way for you to do it. But I really think everybody should try to do it and just practice it, even if it's sporadic, because it'll give you incredible insight to yourself. And ultimately, it's a simple tool that I think can make great change in your life. And just like this show, I like to feed some life strategy. I like to feed some business strategy. And today, we're going to do a little bit of both. We got some great entrepreneurs that are coming on the show here. Got some great questions about life, great questions about business, and really, I don't preach to every entrepreneur that comes on the show to practice this sort of machine mindset that I have evolved into, but in due time, I will create the tool set that I want every person that ever comes on this show, every person that ever listens to it, to utilize it so that they can put themselves in that perpetual state. So without further ado, let's bring in some of our guest entrepreneurs.
In this video, I will prove to you that I am a do-or-dyer, that I am principle fit, and my business is a perfect fit for the Dyrdek machine. My name is Brandon Wessig, founder and president of Neverending Defender, based in Akron, Ohio. Shout out Ohio! The Neverending Defender basketball training harness provides a simulated defender that moves intuitively with the player, perfectly contesting all skills being practiced, building confidence and preparedness in athletes by providing the opportunity to never practice without a defender again. Since you are evaluating founders and companies on the unique process where both 1, the merits of the co-founder, and 2, the product idea is assessed, you will not find a better candidate.
Brandon Wessig, welcome to Build with
Let's
Rob.
go.
How are you?
Thank you, Rob. I am good. I'm well, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, look, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about the product that you pitched. I'd love to for you just to give a quick elevator pitch of what this product is and what service it provides.
Yes, sir. So the Neverending Defender is a basketball training device that teaches you to shoot with a hand in your face and practice dribbling without seeing the ball. It simulates a defender, simulates in-game experiences when you're practicing by yourself.
Yeah, and look, I got to tell you, you're a true do or dyer, man. You really like your wherewithal to sort all this stuff out, figure all this stuff out, to go and get it sourced, to ultimately get it developed and create and bring this thing to life is super significant. So I want to congratulate you on bringing it all the way to life, all the way from Akron, Ohio. Not to forget about the great LeBron James, but also the great Christopher Drama Path is from the
Hey,
Akron
yes,
area
sir.
as well.
Yes, sir.
And tell me, like what has been sort of the process of bringing it to market, and have you found challenges in it, right? Because it kind of seems like it's one of those products where there's a pretty clear path to who would buy it and why they would buy it. And given your sales background and sort of your nature to go out and sell yourself, I'm curious as to sort of the challenges that you've faced in finding consumers for the product.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I'll give you a quick elevator kind of 90-second pitch background. So I had the idea for the product way back in college, probably 2012, 13. I was actually in a buddy's basement and we were just kind of spitballing ideas. I'm like, man, I'm going to make this thing called the Neverending Defender. That was the first and only name
That's
ever.
amazing.
It just came out, rolled off the tongue. And, I was still in school, had student loans, wasn't making too much money. So I kind of put it on the back burner. After I graduated, got a sales job. And actually, I enjoyed working, but I was like, man, I really want to pursue this idea. So the idea came about just, I liked shooting, practicing by myself. There was nothing on the market that moved with you intuitively, that was developed well or was selling. So I just I went to an arts and crafts store, got a sketch pad, some wire, started drawing out some stuff, called up my one friend, went to a basketball court, wrapped them in wire and just made this very first rudimentary, crude prototype. Next day, Googled design, like businesses, companies, things like that, met with a design team, and then it snowballed from there. I mean, that's a huge umbrella, but, met with website designers, patent attorneys, company general counsel for liability issues, things like that. So as the process developed, I became affiliated with a really, really good business mentor of mine. And we were kind of starting to define the target market. And he taught me something. He's like, who you're going to be selling to, at least with this product, is not who's going to necessarily be using it. And I was like, well, I didn't think about that. I was kind of creating content for the sixth grader to 12th grader. He's like, man, it's probably going to be the parents purchasing for the kids. And I would say that was one of the biggest lessons early on I learned. I'm like, wow,
I just want to stop you because it is an amazing lesson. You know what I mean? And what a great mentor. Because it is the difference, it is the difference between the consumer and the customer. Right? Like who's going to actually buy it versus who's going to use it. And so often, like, the word is actually used interchangeable, right? Where it's just sort of the same thing where it's like, okay, like whoever's going to buy it's going to use it. And that's really great advice as it relates to what that is. But is that true to the product, right? Is the product you designed for a customer that is a parent and a consumer is a kid, or is it a teenage college customer consumer? That's like, to me, like, where is the volume and who buys it and who is actually the target customer,
Yeah. So the target purchaser, we have it adults ages 18 to 54 with a child that has the money to purchase, and their child is dedicated to becoming better at basketball. So that sounds super narrow, super specific, but it's a super narrow, super specific product. And we've actually seen more parents purchase. Rob, I'll tell you something that I thought we were going to have a lot of one-off sales. 20 minutes before this phone call, I got an order for 2 from a coach. I had an order for 10 of them from a sporting goods store in Michigan. I have another 10 in a sporting goods store here. And so we're seeing one thing that I I mean, I'd never started to build a business, sold at retail before. We thought we were going to do most of our sales on Amazon online. We're in 2 stores and we're having coaches purchase, which
Yeah.
is not something that I thought was going to be our largest like kind of sales source, but it's
Hey,
we're
look,
selling
let
more
me
than
let
one
me
at a
say
time.
this. Let me say this. My gut is, when I think about it, it's just coaches. Right? Like I don't even look at it as parents. I look at like who's actually like your lens is that like, hey, this is going to make your child become a better basketball player without the coach. Like my lens
Mhm.
was like, this is actually a tool for coaches to run players through drills with the Neverending Defender to make them better, right?
Absolutely.
And look, it's part of business. You discover like who your
Mhm.
actual like customer is going to be sort of along the way, right? And it's a product market fit thing. And I think even the lens of thinking it's every product's going to be direct to consumer because it's an easier path is what a lot of people fall into, when in this day and age, it's omni-channel. Why not Amazon? Why
It
not
really is.
retailers? Why not B2B, which would really be coaches? You know what I mean? Like, and look, if
Eh,
I was you, I would like build a like why your players need this and send it to every single high school in the entire country, every single college in the entire country, because guess what? Each one of them could order like literally like 10 or 20 like a year. That's the value, and the
Yeah, man.
lifetime value of those customers could potentially be.
Yeah, yeah. So I couldn't say it better myself. I don't know if you've been on the Instagram recently, but we went through Ohio, at least Northeast Ohio, donating to different schools. So that was kind of early on. And just to hit on a point that you said, as you go through the experience, it's funny. I like journaling and creating kind of like content about my business. And one thing I say for some of my friends that want to start business, I say, hey, have a business plan. And in the beginning, set that business plan as a parameter. And as you grow, those parameters are either going to become principles or you're going to see that that's the wrong path. And that's exactly what happened with us. I was like, okay, I'm going to stick within these parameters, donate to schools, donate to key influencers, things like that. And wherever we generate sales is where I'm going to focus my time. So just last week, I we did a mailing campaign to 2,000 different retail stores across the country. Created a mail out, got on. I don't know if you what. We used this federal database, and we're getting results from that now. So is kind of this was my idea in the beginning. That's where I see, and so you pivot and you see how it goes, man.
Yeah, and hey,
you
and
know
so
you've done it.
yeah, and my question to you is like, and this to me is a type of business that ultimately, doesn't really need capital investment, right? You don't want to take on investors, you know what I mean? Like, this is,
Well, I don't know about all that now.
yeah, and so to me, like, why do you need money in your estimation? Is this for not wanting to build to sell? Single products are extraordinarily hard to sell unless it's a consistently sold product that's like on Amazon and people buying Amazon companies may potentially do it. Perhaps a sporting goods company may do it, but is your vision to build it and sell it? Is it to be this long-term, sustainable, profitable thing? Is it to scale out into more the defense products, right? That could potentially be a suite of products that help the basketball defense. Like, what's the vision for the brand, and what's the vision
Yeah,
for the
so
capital?
the vision I will answer that in a few different ways. So if it were strictly to answer your capital question, for marketing expenses,
Yeah.
to pay to get on commercials during NBA games, to get into sponsorships with the NCAA tournament, things like that,
But
or
we're
things that
talking
I
that's
can't
so
afford. But
expensive, though. You know what I'm saying?
that's very that's what
You know what
it's
I mean? And
extremely.
then it's like, okay, what am I raising money on at that point? And then like you grow into something like that. Like if you're selling
Mhm.
enough to where you can afford to spend $500,000 on and hope that you can convert enough units that would support that, yeah, I think it's then you got to understand how much you're giving up of that versus building a very clean organic business that has great margins
Mhm.
that can become profitable and sustainable for you long term, rather than taking on like
Mhm.
big investment is something that I would think that you would want to think about.
Yeah, definitely. But to answer the second part of your question, what's the exit strategy or the growth plan? I do have other ideas of attachments for the harness. So we have the attachment here, that's Velcroed onto the harness, but the harness, the base, we have ideas for other attachments. If we don't pursue that route, I would say scaling it and then selling to a training company with a larger portfolio. So right
Yeah.
now I'm working on a business partnership with some other training organizations, sent them out a few. They caught wind of our product, said, "Hey, we think this is cool." I was like, "Yeah, I think if we partnered as a business, it would create a really cool training method." So seeing what they say for companies that are already international, already have marketing budgets more than you know what I'm saying? And so I'm along for the ride, but I'm being extremely observant of potential avenues where we're making our most sales, where I think I'm wasting money and time, and constantly trying to spend my time and money resources in the best way to grow.
Yeah, I mean, look, the beauty of it is I'm you're gonna know quickly, right? Like you got a handful of places you can target, right? Like you can win with coaches, you can win with sporting goods, like you got all these places that, and then you got to sell through at retail to be able to stick in there. It's got to really work for coaches. Then coaches are going to tell coaches, and coaches are going to tell coaches, right? Like I really
Mhm.
think that ends up being the world because coaches can actually see the effectiveness of the product and why you created it. A parent can't, right? And
That's absolutely the truth.
even a young kid may not even really feel like he's developing like the defense the way versus like a coach seeing the development in the player. So, just something to think about. But hit me with your questions, man. I know you got a couple questions. I'd love to get to those.
Yeah. But I'm gonna kind of dovetail off what you said. What you're saying about the coaches is true because the coaches is what substantiates purchasing for the parents. So we have
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
LeBron's assistant high school coach gave us a review, and he was like, one of the biggest things, he's like, I can now coach you and actually watch your footwork, watch your hand placement, watch how your body moves without playing defense on you. And that
yeah.
was one of our best reviews.
That's
Man, I'm
great.
gonna just
Great.
say, I guess for you have a plethora of businesses in different areas. For a business question, when a business that you're running isn't achieving the desired sales results, sales goals, what's the first thing that you would look at? Is it the marketing, price point, brand identity, how you're qualifying the customers? Just that,
I mean, look, it's the there's it's never one thing, but it gets completely clear when you try to modify all of those and you still can't create revenue. And I'll tell you one thing that is very certain for me at the scale that I operate at. We try to do as much of that failing and pivoting and evolving before we ever launch the product. So that like when we launch the product, if it does not start selling and generating revenue immediately, then we know most likely it's going to have a long, hard road to try to find a consumer and begin to scale, right? It's just gotten to the
Mhm.
point where all of that matters, but it to me always boils back to the product and the value proposition and the service that the product does. Like it at the end of the day, like brand identity, brand story, marketing, all of these things are ways to, basically engage and acquire customers. Then it's really about the conversion is based off of what that product does for that customer, right? And so
Mhm.
and it just becomes so clear on the vision for the product and what its potential was is not there and is not working and look and the first thing you got to pivot is into who that customer is, right? Now you got to try to talk to all these different groups. Okay, maybe it's this, then it's like, all right, well maybe it's the price, right? Okay, but if you talk to this one and this person and that price, like that's sort of all of those things together, you got to fight for to kind of find it. But if you didn't nail that, generally, you don't have to hit it out the park. But if you're not like doing it at all, and then your first couple pivots are the same thing, it's a never say die world, especially in entrepreneurialism. Like you believed in the idea, you committed to doing it. Like it's hard to ever not keep pivoting any which way but loose until something works. And look, sometimes, I had a business that literally, man, could not get the vision, did not work. Oh, I mean, pivoting any which way but loose, invest in all of it. It was like finally ready to give up. And one product at retail made it a multi-million-dollar profitable business overnight, right? And it was one retailer, one product. That was St. Midas, right? And like that was like a testament of like, wow. Like, and it's that idea that sometimes like you can find it out of nowhere. But my lesson there is how we actually built and brought that thing to market. I would never, ever do like a company like that ever again. Right. And so, and the beauty of it is that's the beauty when the stakes are your mastery of your business is how do you get better and better and better at building businesses that even though you co-find and bring these businesses to market, like the lessons that are learned and the ones that aren't working as well, like the stakes aren't as high as it is for the entrepreneur, and it's their only business. You know what I mean? Like, because it's more part of everything that you're doing, but it allows us to get better and better and better at bringing stuff to market. And now at this stage, you can almost begin to see immediately, okay, this works. And now it's a matter of how big does it get, is way, way more fun. So that's sort of my view on what that is, and you got to try it all. And then if none of it works, you've got to reconsider taking all those lessons and take a shot at something new, which is always extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. 100%. You want the second question?
Hit me.
Cool. Yeah, they wanted me to ask you a business, not a life question. I would say this, from all the experiences that you've had in business, everything you've learned about yourself, failure, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self starting out? So if I'm in your position talking to me or vice versa, what would you give me if I were you?
I think probably the thing that I would learn to do is not make business so personal. Right. When I was young, every single business was like my identity. It was like who I was. It was like it became as it struggled, I struggled. Right. Rather
Hey, man,
than.
can I interject? I'll be
Sure.
rude for 1 second.
Sure.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. So I said earlier, I write a lot. I was just kind of writing down the other day. I said, the most important thing when you're starting a business is disassociating your self-worth, self-esteem, and identity from the success or failure of your business. You have to do that. And I feel very blessed. Like, seriously, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God, that I learned that. Like, seriously, Father, like, thank God, because I was like that in the beginning. In the beginning, I mean, I would get a rejection and I would go home and I wouldn't turn my computer on the rest of the day. And then I would hear 3 yeses and I would be like, let's go to Disney World. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's so funny. It's so funny you say that, because I feel very, very blessed to kind of have gone through that and really internalized that to where,
hey, look,
now I was scared, Rob, I'll be real. I was scared shitless when I was first approaching retail stores. Now I'm like, I walk in, it's like, yo, what's up? They're like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, all right, here. They're like, we don't want it. I'm like, all right, man, thanks for your time.
Hey, look, and to me, it's you discovered it, right? Like naturally at the right time. And as I said it, like I wasn't sure where you landed on it, because it's, in the basement of the homie's like house, and the one shot, one kill with the name, and like a passion for basketball, and like living at my parents' house. So I get this thing off the ground. Like I ain't stopping. Like, like it's like to me, like it had all the makings for it having that. And it's tough for that not to be, but I was deciding what I would do based off of that, and then digging my heels in based off of that, rather than learning to like, how do you create great business and let that be, and know that you're going to learn all these lessons that you can continue to apply in growing and evolving this business and a business you may do in the future beyond that, right? I think that was like the big thing. And look, you're better than I was. You're better than I was. It took me much longer to figure that out, you know? So look, it was an absolute...
you were too busy spending your money to have to journal about things.
Hey,
I'm sitting here.
Hey, it is, I do so much like introspective work, right? You know, and I talk about it a lot, where I ask myself every day, 0 to 10, how I feel about my life, work, and health. And that qualitative data, how do I feel, then began to produce these quantitative things that I could change to make me feel better about my life, work, and health, you know? And it is a similar practice to journaling. And over time, it allowed me to really grow to this very evolved state, you know? So make no mistake, and I do it to this day, and I live an extraordinary life, you know, that is highly optimized, fully balanced, filled with love and abundance, and, you know, one foot in the present, experiencing this life that I've created, and one eye on the future, so I can create what I want to do and experience in the future. And it's possible for everybody. And I know you're on your path there, and get with all those coaches, man, and get to those schools, and let this be your first big win. And I can't wait to see LeBron in it. I just know one day LeBron's going to be like giving it back to Akron. He's going to have the Neverending Defender.
I'm working on it. I was just talking to his I Promise school today. So
yeah, hey, make it happen. Make it happen. Look, it was a pleasure to meet you, man. I wish you all the best.
Hey, Rob, thank you, bro, for real, man.
All right, be good.
Have a good one.
Who said you needed ice to stay cool? Keeping food and drinks cold outdoors and on the go just got easier with the all-new, state-of-the-art Anywhere fridge. Imagine a world where you're no longer bound to a wall outlet just to maintain proper refrigeration or freezing capabilities. A world in which you're free to go anywhere at any time without limitations. Well, imagine no more, because keeping food and drinks cold outdoors and on the go just became much easier with the new, state-of-the-art Anywhere fridge. The Anywhere fridge can even be charged from a standard car outlet or just leave it outside. It's solar-powered. Who would have thought technology could improve on something so simple, and yet here it is, the Anywhere fridge. You could even use it for grocery shopping. No need to rush home just to put your groceries away anymore, especially if you're pressed for time. Now you can save time, save money, and save gas with the Anywhere fridge.
Hi, my name is Spencer, inventor of the Anywhere fridge. The Anywhere fridge idea came to me at a very young age of 13 years old. One of my visions with the Anywhere fridge is to not only have it for recreational uses such as camping, the beach, hiking, etc., although those things are nice, but I also envisioned to give back to those in need who otherwise wouldn't have access to power and or refrigeration, especially in cases such as natural disasters or hurricanes, or even if you needed to keep vaccines cold and refrigerated or maintain a certain temperature. With the Inventor fridge, you can do all of that because it's solar powered, you can take it anywhere. Not only does it run all day and night, but it does have its own integrated battery, so it's truly self-sustaining even on cloudy days. Thank you.
Spencer Trotter, welcome to Bill with Rob. How are you?
Oh, I am better than I deserve. Thank you.
Man, great to see you. Great to see you, man. Explain to me the product. Tell me the vision, and give me sort of the status on where you're at right now.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so, the Anywhere fridge initialized with me as a young boy at the age of 13, actually. And so it's been a long time in the making. And what we did throughout the years is we tried to build the prototypes, make sure the technology worked and whatnot. And now we're at a point where obviously the technology can all come together. So with that being said, we've started a Kickstarter campaign on it, raised some funding so we can try to get it on the market.
And then what did, now the Kickstarter is live right now, or did you already go through the Kickstarter?
We had already went through the Kickstarter campaign.
And then what'd you end up raising on that?
So on Kickstarter, well, prior to Kickstarter, we actually did an Indiegogo campaign, and we raised about $170,000 on Indiegogo.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, Rob, on the Kickstarter campaign, we launched it, and we raised $34,000 in 4 hours.
Wow. And so where'd you end up doing with all that?
So with that, what we tried to do is get the mass production manufacturing done, so that way we can deliver the product to our customers and get the inventory done and so forth. But we did come across kind of a crossroads there, to where we found out, well, we needed a little bit more sweat equity and capital to get the mass production of the product finished for our customers.
Yeah, because like how much does it end up costing building the entire unit? Like, and how much you sell it for at retail?
So essentially, we did the numbers and the math and so forth. And in Shenzhen, China, we got it down to about $350 a unit to manufacture. To retail, we put it down to about $989 a pop.
Yeah, yeah, and therein lies the great conundrum as an entrepreneur with a vision, who's like, you know what I mean, who's like pushed it and driven it all the way through all these years, through Indiegogo, who getting all the way to China, doing local news, getting it anywhere and everywhere we can get it, to tell the story, to the vision of what is a great product. But you are now in this sort of conundrum of where you're competing against an Igloo for like $40 to have this much more high-valued, longer, better option that you could plug your cell phone into and charge, whatever it may be. Does it have plugs and adapt to like charge other items and stuff like that, or is it strictly just the processor for the cooling?
So initially, when I invented it, I thought of it just to be a refrigerator. But then, I thought along the lines as to, well, people like convenience, they like luxury. So we implemented the AC outlet. You can plug anything into it. 2 thumb drive outlets. You can plug your cell phones into it. So not only is it a refrigerator and freezer, but it also acts as a solar power generator as well. So that way it's a totally off the grid doomsday product, if you will.
Yeah. And hey, and to that point, where have you attempted to sell it, and have you attempted to sell it in retail and people that sort of support, not hardcore doomsday preppers, but people that sort of just, the retailers that kind of support all the emergency equipment? Have you attempted to try to get them to buy in?
As a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked that question. It's a great question. We actually have, and I'll give you a couple of examples. We've tried to get it into REI, Bass Pro Shop, Big Five, stores like that, camping stores. We were also looking into, say, the Red Cross and even Doctors Worldwide or Doctors Without Borders, for things of that nature. So that way they can keep vaccines frozen and refrigerated and things of that nature, and things that are very important like that to the medical field, to where they can transport it across the entire world. And
then what happened? Did you just keep running into that price point? I mean, is that what keeps getting you?
It's the age-old saying, you got to have money to make money, right? Yeah. So that's the conundrum there, where we need that initial capital to invest, so that way we can mass produce it, then prove ourselves and so forth. Just like, for instance, like REI, the camping store, a retailer store like that, they want to see prior sales prior to putting a product into their stores, of course, across America. So that's the catch-22 that we run into, and you can only raise so much money on crowdfunding. So
yeah. Look, I think it's a really, really cool product, right? Obviously, you put in the time to evolve it and over time and make it better and better. And my instincts, always drive to that price point, right? Where it's just like, man, it's when the innovation or the service, if you will, has such a big gap between the what you would consider like the alternative, which is ice, right? Like, sure. in that sort of aspect, and it really had me thinking of like, wow, like is the actual like the fact of trying to make it anywhere and portable somewhat prohibitive, right? Because really it's the solar and the processor or the whatever that keeps it cool. It's probably where the majority of your cost is, right? And it's like if you had a more larger fridge albeit more expensive to ship and not portable, but you now had a fridge outside, or whatever, like that now, like literally anywhere in a village, in a, wherever it may be, that now can have a lot more capacity that would be a similar price, right? Where it really is like, a fridge that can be anywhere, that does not need grounded power, is just something that I was thinking, if you were having resistance to getting one for one, because then it's like, hey, this is more comparable to a regular fridge, and you don't need an outlet to have this thing working for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that I was thinking that I think, you may, want to consider, because it still stays online with your, anywhere fridge, because ultimately it's that solar power that makes the great differentiator. It's just a matter of, man, is this my, Rolls Royce cooler, versus like, this is a refrigerator that I don't need to plug in, you know what I mean? That we can keep at our fishing cabin and keep in our, whatever, these truly off the grid places. Is something that if I was you, I would just like think about in your roadmap and sort of your potential, especially on that B2B side, getting with those doctors and those sort of worlds where if it scales up, it has a different sort of value, versus like that portable side, which then the competition is ice, man. It's lice, and versus like full refrigeration, which is a much different ball game, where now you've got all the groceries and for people that don't have it. But I don't know. That's just, as someone who looks at everything through that sort of lens of what is the friction, what is the friction, and that potentially is, and then maybe at scale, and or even getting an understanding of what the customer would pay, right?
Sure.
If they're like, oh, we could sell, if this was 200 all day long, and not saying that's real, but at least there's like some marker in there that you can hunt for and understand where the potential of that cost, where the economies are that get there, and if they even can. But that's just some general thought of really, as I was thinking about as a whole, as a consumer now, you know what I mean? And like, how would I use it? Where would I use it? Like, what would I pay it for? And I just kept like, I keep looking at the cooler, and it's a cooler alternative, as opposed to the refrigerator alternative, which is a different concept, but has the economics and the service and value prop that might be worth, considering, since you've done all this legwork,
Well, that's a great question, and I'm glad that you brought this up, Rob, because it's funny, because we actually, the one we're advertising online, that is our base model. We actually have 3 different models. We have a smaller version, which is much cheaper as well. It's in that $300 range that you were talking about. And we also have a recreational model, which is actually the size of a standard refrigerator, which it still folds down and transforms and collapses down to 5 inches. So if you wanted to put it in the bed of your truck and go hunting, put a whole deer in it, you can even do that. So we do actually have that variety of different price ranges and sizes.
How much is that big one?
So the big one, that currently retails for about $2,500, because obviously the capacity of it. And in all the refrigerators, it's actually state-of-the-art technology. So we're not really just using your standard compressor with Freon, because Freon is, it's bad for the ozone layer or whatnot. We're using what you call a solid state compressor. So that way it lasts longer and it freezes more. So it goes 8 degrees below Celsius, which is 8 degrees below zero.
Wow. Yeah. Look, you did it all. You know what I mean? And it's like when you make the Rolls Royce, you know what I mean? It's like, there's like another level in Ferraris, right? You can buy a regular Ferrari, then you can buy the special edition Ferraris, and then if like you are someone who's bought like 100 regular and special edition Ferraris, they allow you to make a one-off Ferrari that's like, you know, $10 million for you to make. But it's like, man, there's a few amount of people that will ever get there, you know, and
Sure.
it is the idea when you create a luxury product that ultimately, you know, like really understanding who that consumer is and all of these sort of technology and this sort of additional tech that you've added to it, it's they're willing to pay for the customer that has the money, right? So that's the really interesting side of it. But look, super interesting. I do think there's probably a sweet spot in cost there that changes everything. But yeah, hit me with the questions. I know you got a couple questions.
You know, I do, you know, as a matter of fact, I was actually wondering, you know, in my personal goals with the Anywhere Fridge, you know, is to eventually give back to those in need who otherwise wouldn't have access to power and or refrigeration in other foreign countries, you know, and give them the opportunity to have a product like this, where they can actually, it's a life-sustaining product in their situation. You know, in our situation, you know, we have a lot of luxury in the United States. They don't have that much luxury. This would be everything for them. So that's one of my ultimate goals. And, you know, I'm just curious, now that you're at the point to where you're at in your success, what are a couple of your goals ultimately now?
I mean, look, you know, from a philanthropy side, you know, I'm just launched the Do or Dyer Foundation. You know, I put $1 million into the foundation to launch it. And really, you know, for me, it's like, I know how much learning the skills of being an entrepreneur can not only serve you for a lifetime, but ultimately help you live a better life and help you learn to be the CEO of your life, as Defy Ventures says. And I've partnered then with other great charities, WIT, Defy, Build, that have programs to teach entrepreneur skill sets and then donate to them, and I'm doing business plan learning competitions as a way for them to earn non-dilutive capital, right? For me, right? In the sense of like, you know, I think as I continue to find the success, like I believe sort of the mindset and the skill set that's learned in this world is really beneficial for you forever. Even if your first couple ventures fail, you continue to evolve and get better. And then when I think about like how valuable like having one of your fridges in these places that don't have access to power, and how there's probably a lot of charities that may support that, because it'd be really interesting to go out and find some of these charities that work with places that don't have running water and power, and be like, hey, every time we sell one, like, would you buy one at cost and donate it to one of those places, right? Because it's almost like, yeah, like it's almost like rather than you bake it into your margin the way that like a Tom's does, where it's like they sell one pair, give one away, the way Bombas does, you know, exactly. That's critical. It's very difficult for a business like yours, but you have the product and the technology. Be really interesting for you to connect with a foundation or another charity that is already supporting those regions and be like, hey, every time if we did a partnership, I would sell one to you for cost to donate there. And that would be a really interesting way for you to be able to scale your sort of vision of how to use what you've created to help other people with a partnership, you know, in a way that's a win-win for everybody. That would be really, really interesting thing, I think, maybe for you to explore and potentially approach as well.
That is a fantastic idea. I actually didn't even think of that. I appreciate that info. That's that just might work too.
Yeah, because it's like you have the product and it's just you can't give it away, but you know what an impact it would make. But there's charities that have, you know, tons of cash that are looking for the right programs to deploy that cash. And man, you could be the perfect fit, man. And how beautiful would that be? Every time someone buys one, boom, you can show instant impact on what you're doing for a place that doesn't have it. And I think that alone could be the awareness and the reason for people to pay more for it right? Because it's like, okay, it's not only that, but this is what it's doing. So I don't mind overpaying for the service for the actual impact that it's making on Earth. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
My sentiments exactly.
yeah, and think about that. It's the uniqueness of the game of building a business and playing the game of margin and cost of goods and customer acquisition and awareness and how you can be of service for the product and technology you created. That's a really interesting way of making it all come together. That could not only elevate you and your business, but then elevate like the impact that you desire to create and accelerate it at a much quicker pace.
Absolutely. And, that is just, I was going to mention to you as well, one of the great things about the Anywhere Fridge 2 that we implemented is before, COVID, we even put UV lights in it. So it kills all kinds of different diseases, salmonella, E. coli poisoning, COVID. So that way it's sanitized and always healthy and, your food's always great. And there you go. Bam,
Yeah, you got something there. That's a super unique sort of business model, but man, you get the right support and man, it's lights out.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that because I'll tell you what, this has been a lifelong dream for me. And I've been working on it for about 20 some odd years. And it is definitely turned into more than just a dream. I've made quite a bit happen with it. And at this point, if I can get it to the point to where it needs to be, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. What other question you got for me?
I've been meaning to ask you, because when I first became an entrepreneur, it all initialized at the age of 13. And that's how I invented the Anywhere Fridge. And the way I was inspired to do it is because I would sell candy door to door and it would melt. And so I needed to think of something that would keep it, cool. So that inspired me to create the product and become an entrepreneur. But my question is, what initially drove you and inspired you to do what it is you're doing and become a philanthropist and entrepreneur as well?
I mean, look, I recently made a video of like, you don't like choose to be an entrepreneur. Like, and if you have to ask, should I be an entrepreneur, then you shouldn't be one.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
there's a bunch of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And I think like, for me, I like to say I was raised by entrepreneur wolves, like I first called a skate shop when I was really young. They had a ramp in the back. Would you let me skate it? But I couldn't afford it. Would you let me skate for free if I get 10 people to pay? And they thought it was ridiculous. Like, why don't you just come down here? And so like, it opened the door to me seeing the young entrepreneur who founded that skate shop and then watched him start all these companies. And I just, in my mind, it was just already part of my identity, when I became a pro skateboarder. I left high school when I was 16 to be a pro skateboarder. I used to call myself a brand back then in 91 and track all my finances, and I moved to California and started my first company, built my first company with an operator, Soup to Nuts, Orion Aluminum, when I was 17, and so for me, I was raised by serial entrepreneurs and assumed that's what I was too. And so I just started company after company as different sort of opportunities presented themselves, DC, and now having Signature Footwear, and then that getting really big. Now I had much more capital. Then I started opening retail stores and record labels. I started dabbling in all these different sort of things. And then ultimately, it evolved into television and the scale and the reach that I had with television. Then I started building all these other companies, and I did movies and launched my pro skateboarding league and cartoons and toy stores and Walmart. I ended up with such this world of experience that it also led me, into a bit of chaos because I had found so much success and failure simultaneously that I wasn't sure what really worked or what I liked doing the most. And then when I finally took the time to really evaluate, what it was I was most passionate about, what I really wanted my life and legacy to be about, it slowly codified and formed into like what the machine is today. Because I realized I'm actually most passionate about creating, and I love creating businesses from the idea stage. and I wanted to create a system that allowed me to do it consistently and get better and better at making it sustainable, profitable, and successful. Because business, is always amazing when it works. And
Right.
it's painful when you're fighting to figure it out. And it is the ultimate gut punch, identity breaker, soul crusher when you've got to finally say goodbye to something. And you never, ever get over it. You know what I mean? Like, as I was saying it, I was just thinking through a handful of like companies that I like had to end. And it still like is like, the scar is like a wound that never fully heals. You know what I mean? Plenty of lessons and so much learned, but you never set out on a venture with the goal of it ever not working. You know what I mean? But yeah, look, that's sort of like the journey that led me to that, and I think everybody kind of goes on that discovery, and the goal is, to create the right idea and keep fighting. If you're super passionate about it like you, and maybe it's one conversation with it, one video to the Dyrdek machine, and one conversation with Rob that opens up your mind to just think of one more angle that now opens it up and it goes. Like that's one thing of why I call it the art, science, and magic. You got to design it and create it. There's fundamentals of business, but boy, there's that intangible one sort of bit of magic that can make all the difference in a business becoming successful.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I am more than open to new ideas, and just like you were mentioning before, to contact, people like the Red Cross and so forth. That is just, that's a great thing, because if I can get a hold of those companies that are already doing these kind of things for their shoes and so forth, that'd be probably a door opener there.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, man, I wish you the absolute best, man. You keep pushing and make it happen, man. Impact the world.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Right.
And pleasure being on your show. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Be good. All right. There you have it. Another episode of Build with Rob. Thank you all for continuing to support the show and always listening. Of course, like, subscribe wherever you listen to the show. You want to get more involved with us down here at the machine, become a machinist. Go to dyrdekmachine.com, sign up to be a machinist, be part of our process. You got a great idea, pitch it to us. We love hearing entrepreneur ideas, and you might just end up on this show as well. So again, anything you do, I don't care what it is, you got to have a vision. You got to know what you want to do. You got to build a plan to actually do it, and then you got to commit and give it everything you got until it happens. See it, believe it, and do it. Until next time, it's your boy Rob Dyrdek.